Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode in KT Comics. On this episode, we're going to talk about collecting fatigue and being burnt out of a hobby. So let's get into it. First of all, I want to apologize to everybody that I haven't been making videos recently. I've had a lot of personal health issues come up that I've had to focus on that. But it's not the only reason why I haven't been making videos recently. You see, for some time now, my passion for collecting comic books has been at best draining. And every time I get enough courage to sit down and read a book or sort my comic books, my passion just isn't there. Now, this doesn't mean I'm not going to collect comic books anymore or I'm done with the hobby. No, that's not it at all. I love my comic books. It's just I need to be 100% honest with myself and say, look, you burnt out of the hobby. You need to take a break from it. So I did. I took a couple months off and, I just refocused on some things, brainstormed, recharged the batteries. And guess what? It worked. I feel refocused, determined, and better than ever. Now, on my time off, I really, and I mean really, had an in-depth internal evaluation of this hobby and what I truly want out of it. And it actually started to get me thinking, maybe I should do a video sharing some of my tips on how to combat collecting fatigue or being burnt out of a hobby. So with that being said, here's my 5 tips I recommend to combat against collecting fatigue or being burnt out. Tip number 1, switch up your collecting pattern or goal. Branch out a little bit instead of just focusing on one title or collectible. Now have many goals set up for yourself, but don't be afraid to veer off the path every once in a while and pick up something for refreshing and new, okay? My recommendation is go to the local comic book shop or your hobby store, ask the employee for some recommendations. They're going to point you in the right direction. Diversity is always a good thing. Speaking of diversity, tip number 2, focus on a different hobby. Now, it's not a bad thing to have another hobby or a passion. In fact, it's the opposite. It's a great way to balance out your collecting so that it's not so daunting just focusing on one hobby over and over again. All right? I have multiple hobbies. In fact, recently I just got back into trading cards, so it's a lot of fun going down that path. But seeing some art makes me focus more on comics, so it's kind of pushing me back into my hobby again. So have multiple hobbies, it's a great thing. Tip number 3, revisit the reason why you started collecting. Go on a trip down memory lane to spark that passion. Read your favorite comic book or visit a friend that got you into the hobby. For me, I like to read Batman Long Halloween or Wolverine by Frank Miller and then visit friends talking about old memories that we have in this hobby. It's a great time to talk about that and refuel that energy for the hobby. Tip number 4, step away from the hobby for a bit. It's not a race, it's a marathon. Slow and steady wins every single time, all right? And for me, I normally give myself 2 weeks off, no comic books or hobbies whatsoever. Then I reevaluate, see if that did the trick. If not, I give myself some more time, all right? Then I go back to the tips that I recommended previously here. And eventually what happens is it triggers some sort of excitement and I'm off to the races and back in the game, okay? Just give yourself some time. It's okay. Remember, it's not a race. Now, I know some people are going to say, what about FOMO? I just can't walk away. I'm going to miss out on the latest hot item. Well, and for this statement, I have 2 things to say. First of all, it won't matter about FOMO if you get burnt out and completely quit the hobby altogether. You're not going to care about the latest items. Secondly, most collectibles nowadays are mass-produced and are easily available to us more than ever. If you take a break and you come back, it gives yourself a mini goal to go searching after those books that you missed out on. All right? Your mental health is more important. Tip number 5. Maybe this hobby just isn't for you, and that's okay. I've had numerous hobbies over the years where I quit or just don't do anymore. If it's not making you happy, then why do it? But just do yourself a favor first. Make sure to do an evaluation of the hobby and make sure that you truly want to get out of the hobby before you start selling off your stuff. I mean, worst case scenario down the road, you can start over. The issue there is once you start over, it's a grind to get all your cool stuff back. But again, that's kind of half the fun about collecting these days. Alright, so those are some of the tips that I have to combat collecting fatigue. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and if you're going through this situation, hopefully it helped you out a little bit. I know being burnt out in a hobby is a serious thing, and it puts a heavy weight on the hobby that normally should be a lot of fun. Make sure to comment down below some tips that you do to combat collecting fatigue, and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It goes a long way for me. So until next time, thanks a lot, and keep on collecting.